So, almost a week ago, very successful TV show host and LGBTQ community icon Ellen DeGeneres was enjoying a football game with very successful war criminal and less successful former president George W. Bush. Kind of an odd choice of friends for Ellen, not sure why you'd want to hang out with an outwardly homophobic man with the blood of thousands of innocent civilians on his hands, but to each their own, I guess. Anyway, eventually word got out about their unlikely friendship, and certain segments of the internet started to call her out for it. Very obviously missing the point of the angry people tweeting at her, she decided to make this statement on her show a couple days later. Check it out.
But during the game, they showed a shot of George and me laughing together, and so people were upset. They thought, why is a gay Hollywood liberal sitting next to a conservative Republican president? Didn't even notice I'm holding the brand new iPhone 11, and
Yeah, actually, why is a gay Hollywood liberal sitting next to a conservative Republican president? Maybe she didn't even notice that he won re-election in 2004, running on a constitutional amendment that would have made it impossible for her to marry her wife. In fact, should I ever meet a man that I love enough to want to marry, even though I really don't care about the idea of marriage as a general concept, had Bush been successful with that amendment, I wouldn't be able to marry him either. Very funny. But I guess maybe that's just a difference of opinion.
But a lot of people were mad, and they did what people do when they're mad. They tweet, and but here's one tweet that I loved. This person says, Ellen and George Bush together makes me have faith in America again. And exactly. Here's the thing. I'm friends with George Bush. In fact, I'm friends with a lot of people who don't share the same beliefs that I have. We're all different, and I think that we've forgotten that that's okay, that we're all different.
I really hate this argument. There is a massive difference between being friends with someone regardless of your differing opinions and being friends with someone regardless of the million-plus lives lost due to their actions when they were the most powerful person in the world. You can't tell me that 100-plus innocent Iraqi civilians dead is just a difference of opinion. You can't tell me that the torture of people, innocent or not, around the globe is just looking at the world through a different lens. You cannot tell me that the decimation of Iraq, Afghanistan, Yemen, Somalia, Libya, Syria, Pakistan is all just two different sides of a fucking coin. George W. Bush is a war criminal that has not yet been, and likely never will be, held to account, and Ellen claiming to be good friends with him is laundering his image to the nearly 500,000 people that watch her show every time an episode airs.
For instance, I wish people wouldn't wear fur. I don't like it, but I'm friends with people who wear fur. And I'm friends with people who are furry, as a matter of fact. I have friends who should tweeze more.
I know this is just supposed to be a funny meme that supports her argument, but you cannot possibly compare people wearing fur to literal war crimes. Like, even vegans wouldn't go that far, and we all know how vegans can be about different opinions on the use of animal products. It's incredibly funny to me that Ellen decided to bring up people wearing fur as some sort of an analog to her relationship with George Bush, because it kind of illustrates how she gets more outraged over the deaths of animals than the deaths of innocent brown men, women, and children in the Middle East, all caused by the Bush admin's policies. And as a side note, first time I heard this part, I thought she dragged literal furries into this debate. I don't think that was her intent, that's just where my millennial zoomer internet brain went, but we really don't need to throw any more shit at furries. They get enough of that. Please leave them alone.
I have, but just because I don't agree with someone on everything doesn't mean that I'm not going to be friends with them. When I say be kind to one another, I don't mean only the people that think the same way that you do. I mean be kind to everyone. Doesn't matter.
Okay, that kind of flowery rhetoric is cool and all, and in general I tend to agree, but 99.9% of people who have different beliefs than I do haven't also been homophobic, torturous, war criminal, mass murdering former presidents of the United States of America. I can't quite put my finger on it, but there's some sort of a difference between my Trump-supporting, truck-driving uncle and Dick fucking Cheney. Well, I do think that society needs to be more kind and forgiving to people who've done wrong, especially in regards to our broken criminal justice and prison system. There has to be a line that one can cross where you kind of realize you shouldn't hang out with them in public, especially as someone with as large of a platform as Ellen has. Like, I don't think it would be totally cool if my favorite role model was hanging out with Ted Bundy, and his death count is dwarfed by the million-plus who have died because of Bush administration policies in the Middle East. Not to mention that Ted Bundy was eventually held to account for his actions, and we can't say the same about Cheney, Bush, Kissinger, the list goes on. There are ways that we, as people who live in a society, can move past certain things and forgive people for the heinous shit that they might think, believe, or do. However, in Bush's case, these things haven't happened yet. In order to actually do this, 1, Bush would actually have to show some sort of remorse for the destruction of countless communities and lives in the Middle East. 2, he and his cronies would have to be held to account in the form of prosecutions. And 3, we would have to actually acknowledge the countless crimes he and his administration have committed, instead of whitewashing it all because he's your personal friend. Ellen, by doing what you're doing in this segment on national television in front of millions of people, I don't think this is your intent, but you're actively working against those who are fighting for justice for the innocent lives lost due to the Iraq War, among other things. As someone who will always have some respect for you because of your activism for the LGBTQ community, I implore you to look a little bit deeper into the human suffering caused by this person and seriously reconsider your friendship with him. But I totally understand why someone like Ellen DeGeneres might be able to overlook these sorts of things. She and George W. Bush are part of the the same club. I wish this was the same for the middle class and the poor, but class solidarity is very, very important to the rich and powerful. Apparently so important, in fact, that wealthy liberals are willing to embrace a conservative Republican former president, even though they relentlessly shit on him while he was in power. Just because a little bit of time has passed, he so happened to be in the same income bracket as them, and has like 1 or 2 degrees more respectability because he's not as mean to them on Twitter as Donald Trump. A multimillionaire celebrity like Ellen is very, very comfortable in the world right now. Because of her wealth and status, she quite literally never has to worry about meeting her basic needs. Unlike myself, my family, and every other poor and working class person out there, she never has to worry about how she's going to keep the roof over the head of herself and her family. She likely never has to make the calculation of whether or not to pay the light bill because it won't leave enough room in the budget to feed her children. She never has to roll the dice on her health every year because she can't afford to pay for health insurance in the richest country the face of the earth has ever seen. And what's fucked up is, we're the lucky ones, because at least we're not the ones getting tortured in Abu Ghraib and blown up by US drones overseas. The 1 million+ lives lost in the Middle East, the introduction of a global torture regime, expanding NSA spying, and none of this shit really registers at the level of privilege that Ellen and other wealthy people have attained. In fact, garbage policy like Bush's tax cuts actually benefits them. That's why it's a little bit easier for them to move past everything I just mentioned in the name of civility and kindness. In response to this segment of Ellen's show, people on the internet got to action and edited into the background images demonstrating the absolute horrors of the Iraq War. After being forced to confront reality and see the human suffering brought about by the Bush admin's Middle East policy, I have to give her some credit. Ellen actually made a statement renouncing her friendship with George W. Bush and apologized for overlooking these atrocities, is what I wish I could say, because instead Ellen's team decided to work at 100 miles an hour, copyright striking everybody who uploaded this video, demonstrating the ugly truth that she chose to ignore. I actually wish I could show you guys this video because it is profoundly impactful, but I'm not really trying to be one of her team's next victims. But Ellen isn't the only wealthy celebrity who has the incorrect take here. Rosie O'Donnell posted an image from the same football game with the caption, quote, "How comforting to see a real president. Never thought this image would move me so. Come on, Republicans, call bullshit on Trump. Save democracy." Seemingly implying that if George W. Bush was president instead of Donald Trump, we'd all be doing okay right now. This is quite literally only a take that you can have if you're almost completely detached from reality and have decided to take up permanent residence in your liberal elite bubble. Shit like this is probably one of the best possible cases to prove that Trump Derangement Syndrome might actually be kind of a thing. Somehow the blatant corruption and 1 million lives lost at the hands of the Bush administration can be completely forgotten because Donald Trump is also corrupt, but at the same time says mean words on Twitter and somehow makes the country look worse. Absolutely ridiculous. They're both pieces of shit. It's not hard to see that. Even Tulsi Gabbard decided to back Ellen up, quote, "Ellen's message of being kind to all is so needed right now. Enough with the divisiveness. We can't let politics tear us apart. There are things we will disagree on strongly and things we agree on. Let's treat each other with respect, aloha, and work together for the people." Of all the people I would expect to have the correct opinion on this topic, it would be a veteran from Iraq who constantly talks about having seen the real human cost of war. Tulsels everywhere have to be shaking. I didn't expect that I would see Tulsi Gabbard rushing to the defense of a man who lied the country into an offensive war against a country that didn't even attack us. It doesn't make any sense, and that's not the only place Bush has meddled in. His administration has also messed around in Latin America. George W. Bush reopened the infamous School of the Americas in 2001, renaming it the Western Hemisphere Institute for Security Cooperation, or WINSEC. This institution was previously closed down because of fierce criticism over its training of countless officers implicated in coups and human rights abuses in the region. In my father's home country, Honduras, the head of the military command that led the 2009 US-backed military coup d'etat against democratically elected President Manuel Zelaya was also trained at this institution. Check out my 56-minute deep dive detailing all of these events. Link will be down in the description. To further emphasize how detached from reality certain wealthy people can be, here's former co-host of Fox & Friends Abby Huntsman on ABC's The View giving her take on the topic.
What did you think when you saw them sitting next to each other?
I didn't spend my Saturday tweeting out how upset I was about it. How much time we're wasting tweeting negative things about other people. We should be spending that time with our children, with our family, or heaven forbid, friends that might think differently than we do. I'm sorry, but I was upset. I don't know Ellen. Say what you will about her, but a lot of people that were tweeting don't know Ellen. So how about we get out of people's lives? Stop judging people for what they're going to do, who they're going to sit next to.
Abby Huntsman says people were wasting their time correctly pointing out the obvious about the Bush administration's heinous acts, and that they should instead be spending that time with their children and with their family. Tell that to the countless Iraqi civilians who have lost friends, family, and their own lives as a result of the Iraq War. They can't spend that wasted time with their children and family because they're fucking dead. You worry about people wasting time on Twitter when you're playing defense for someone who's responsible for cutting short the time that they had left on this earth. Tell the same thing to the grieving mothers of thousands of US soldiers who lost their lives in this illegal war. Tell the same thing to countless other countries the US is currently drone striking as a result of the initial invasion of Iraq. Tell that to the countless Iraq War veterans suffering from PTSD and committing suicide because the United States healthcare system can't effectively accommodate their needs. None of this shit needed to happen. All of it is a direct result of George W. Bush, Dick Cheney, and the rest of his administration lying the United States into an illegal offensive war against a country that did not even attack us. If you took any time at all to step out of your smug, pampered, elitist bubble and educated yourself on the harsh realities of the world, you wouldn't be so confident in making ignorance-fueled privilege takes like this. I don't give a fuck if your feelings are hurt because because people are correctly calling out one of your fellow millionaires on Twitter. I care more that that person is normalizing a war criminal torturer to their platform of millions of fans. If you won't take a lowly pleb like myself's word for it, here's someone whose net worth matches up a little bit more closely to yours. Mark Ruffalo writes on Twitter, quote, "Sorry, until George W. Bush is brought to justice for the crimes of the Iraq War, including American-led torture, Iraqi deaths and displacement, and the deep scars, emotional and otherwise, inflicted on our military that served his folly, we can't even begin to talk about kindness." This is precisely correct. Somehow, some way, this multimillionaire is able to get it right. What's your excuse?
Yeah, I agree with that. When you think about the position that he took about gay marriage when he was in power and had the power to do something. I mean, you think about 2004.
The same position Obama took, for the record.
Yeah, but we're talking about George Bush.
It's also been how many years, Sonny? It's been, what, 10 years?
2004, when he was in a position to...
Sonny. It's been fucking 10 years. Didn't you know that all you have to do to atone for wanting to pass a constitutional amendment to make gay marriage federally illegal is wait until a decade rounds out? Come on. What are you thinking, Sonny? Come on.
When he was in a position to do something about it, he actually pushed for a constitutional amendment to make sure that marriage was defined as between a man and a woman. And to my knowledge, his father has come out and said, well, I've mellowed on that position, but he hasn't come out and really said anything about it. So I think when you are a woman like Ellen, who came out and changed the lives of so many people in the LGBTQ community, I can understand why there were people that were put off by seeing her doing that. I agree that it is her choice.
Were you put off?
Sonny, first of all, that hairdo is some of the cutest shit I've ever seen. What a goddess. Second of all, I'm so glad she was able to get this message out there to the Views audience. I'm not going to go over this entire segment. Link will be in the description if you want to see it in full. But Sonny, Joy, and to a certain extent, as we're about to find out, even Meghan McCain was able to make some decent points about it, and you'll love to see it.
Part of the issue is, and I'm like somewhere in the middle on all of this, it's not that we can't have friends on both sides. Obviously, we all have that. Or any normal person probably does. I don't choose who I'm friends with based on their political background. I mean, unless it's something truly radical. I mean, I would have a hard time being friends with Rand Paul or anyone associated with him. I'm just put that right there. Anyway, there is a revisionist history with the Bush administration that I take intense umbrage with. The idea that, and I think, great, Michelle Obama wants to be friends with him, but I remember all the things that were said about President Bush when he was in power. I remember people calling for his impeachment, a warmonger, lied about weapons of mass destruction, Hurricane Katrina. So I think part of the issue for me is just confusion, because did your opinion on Hurricane Katrina and the Iraq War change? And I think there has to be a level of consistency with your politics. I don't blame Ellen.
Listen, it's not often that I agree with one of Meghan McCain's takes. It's really not often, like quite literally almost never. But this time, I kind of agree a little bit, at least with that last part. She says, great, Michelle Obama wants to be friends with him. But I remember all the things that were said about President Bush when he was in power. I remember people calling for his impeachment, a warmonger, lied about weapons of mass destruction, Hurricane Katrina. So I think part of the issue for me is just confusion. Did your opinion on Hurricane Katrina and the Iraq War change? Now, it's entirely possible that Meghan McCain doesn't actually believe in any of these things and is kind of bringing it all up in an attempt to revise history herself. But if we take her words at face value, this is a pretty valid point. When W was in power, liberals, specifically the wealthy elites and celebrities that we've been talking about in this segment, clowned on the man relentlessly. However, now that we've been through the Obama administration and are nearly 4 years into the Trump administration, many of these same people are embracing the man. Absolutely wild that in a decade and some mean tweets later, we arrive at this kind of a 180. It's almost like these people don't actually care about policy and are in it more for the aesthetics. Why stick your neck out and fight for actual material change when you can just be outraged over the guy you don't like's demeanor, that he says crass things and is a bully on Twitter? Seems like a waste of time to me, personally. Trump Derangement Syndrome, folks. Not good. Anyway, to summarize, Ellen DeGeneres being friends with and hanging out in public with noted homophobic war criminal torturer, never been held to account for his crimes, former President George W. Bush, not a good look. Doing this normalizes all the bad shit his administration is responsible for and launders his image for the millions of people Ellen can speak directly to via her public platform. Do not do this. It's bad. Thanks so much for watching this segment from episode 1 of the Conure Report. This episode's Conure callout is Matthew Taub 2. Appreciate the support. Hope you enjoy your tier 1 sub to my Twitch channel. If you'd like to be the next episode's Conure callout, follow me on Twitter at ConureCC and retweet my video links when they go live. Don't forget to like this video. To the right of me is the link to subscribe to the channel, and next to that is even more content for you to enjoy. Love you all very much. Fuck it. That's the one.